Welcome to Motoroids, guys. My name is Amit, and this is the Tata Punch. And does it really pack a punch? Well, we generally start our reviews with the dimensions and the exterior features of a car, but since this was an all new product, I thought I'll get behind the wheel of the car first and let you know about how it drives. While this is not an entirely new package based on the Altroz or the Alpha platform of Tata, it's powered by the same engine that powers the Altroz and a few other Tata stable cars. The 1.2 litre Revotron engine. The power produced here is 86 PS at 6000 RPM, and the peak torque is rated at 113 Newton meters at 3300 RPM. Now, if you want to compare it with other cars, there isn't a direct rival to this car. So the Maruti Suzuki Ignis, which is the closest competitor, has to be compared. And in terms of specs, this matches up. In fact, the power output here is 3 PS more, and the Ignis produces 83 PS and the torque output is the same. However, the Ignis is a lighter car and it also is a 4-cylinder engine. So in terms of refinement and outright acceleration, you'll probably get slightly better acceleration in the Ignis. Now, this engine, we have driven it for over 100 kilometers today. I really wanted to test it extensively before I let out the final verdict to you. And there are a few negatives that we are going to start with. And to start off, this is not the most refined engine, and clearly the 4-cylinder engines have an advantage when it comes to refinement and outright acceleration. However, where this engine really shines is the fact that this is very tractable within the city. If you're going to be driving it at moderate speeds, it does not require you to shift gears too much, and it can carry very low speeds in higher gears as well, which means that while driving within the city, you won't really have to shift much. Now, apart from that, the fuel efficiency, although it has not been mentioned in the press release or the press note, the fuel efficiency as tested by us is also very impressive. And since this car comes with 2 driving modes, one city and one eco, pressing this button here,
Economy drive mode activated.
you can engage
City drive mode activated.
the city or the economy mode. And I tested it for the highway fuel efficiency in an extensive manner, and the fuel efficiency on the highway, the maximum number that I got was 23 kmpl, which is pretty good. And I'm pretty sure that if you are not going to be driving with a heavy right foot, you can easily attain 22.5 to 23 kmpl on the highway. If you are in the economy mode, that is, if you're going to be driving in the city mode, you'll get about 20 to 20 and a half kilometers to the liter, which also I believe is a great fuel efficiency figure. So the fuel efficiency on this car is pretty good. So that's one thing that you'd really appreciate. Apart from that, if you talk about the engine character, as I mentioned, this is not one of the most refined engines, and it really gets gruff after 3000 RPM, not very rev happy. It does not really like being pushed to the red line. However, if you're going to be driving in a gingerly kind of a fashion where you don't want to hustle it too much, this is a nice tractable engine. Now, there is hardly any power below 1000 RPM. It really starts picking up its pace after 1200 RPM, and from there is a linear progress towards 3000 RPM. And from 3000 RPM onwards, you can really feel like a lot of power has been built up, and you can feel a step up in power from that point onwards. And there is again another step up at 5000 RPM. 6000 RPM is broadly the point where the limiter cuts in. Now, if you're going to be driving in the eco mode, the limiter cuts in a little bit early, and the rev needle doesn't go past 5800 RPM. But if you're going to be driving in the city mode, it goes past 6000 RPM, and the rev needle is going to show you 6200 RPM. Now, that also has its bearings on the gear speeds. And talking about the gear speeds are 42 kilometers per hour in first gear, 80 kilometers per hour in second gear, and 120 kilometers per hour in the third gear. Now, these are the numbers in eco mode, and in the city mode, where the RPM crosses 6000 RPM, you get slightly higher speeds, about 7% higher. So, for example, in third gear, you'll see 130 kilometers per hour and not 120 kilometers per hour. So that's the difference. Now, there is also a very perceptible difference in the way the car moves in city versus the eco mode. And while in the city mode, you can still feel some momentum building in at a reasonably decent clip, in the eco mode, the car doesn't move very quickly. And the eco mode is not meant for places where you would require quick acceleration or overtaking maneuvers. So use it only in places where you don't require the car to move very quickly, because there is a very perceptible difference between the eco and the city mode. In terms of tractability, as I mentioned before, this car really does very well in terms of slow speeds and higher gears. So in the fifth gear, the car moves from speeds as slow as 40 kilometers per hour. In the fourth gear, it moves from speeds as slow as 30 kilometers per hour, and in the third gear, it moves and gives you reassuring movement from 20 kilometers per hour. So while driving the city, it's quite a breeze, and the engine is mated with this 5-speed manual gearbox. I won't say it's notchy, but it's not the slickest of the gearboxes either. There is a very mild sense of notchiness and very mild sense of rubberiness here, but it's par for the course. I don't think that it's a deal breaker. It's a decent short throw gearbox, and with a reasonably light clutch action, you can really use it within the city. It's not going to be much of an issue. However, I really believe that some more refinement from this 3-cylinder engine would have gone a long way in making this car even more appreciable. Now, let's come to the ride and handling part, which is very important for quite a few of you. Although this car shares its platform with the Altroz, the low speed plush ride of the Altroz cannot be experienced here, and while you're driving on rough surfaces or undulating surfaces at slow speeds, the suspension here feels slightly more firm, and it isn't exactly comfortable at slower speeds where you can feel a bit of vertical movement, and while you're going over broken surfaces, you can even feel the suspension crashing. The car feels a lot better as you build speed, and at speed is where the Tata Punch really comes into its own, and the steering gains a good amount of weight, feels very poised on highways, and at speed it takes undulations in its stride rather well. So once you build speed, it feels really nice and poised. It is a nice handling car. The steering has some very positive feedback, and it isn't dead. There is a certain degree of preciseness, weight and feedback to the steering, and I really like that aspect about the Tata Punch. However, at slow speeds, the lack of absorption and comfort can be a bit of an issue for some of the customers. For being an SUV which comes with 190 mm of ground clearance and over 370 mm of water wading capability, this thing handles pretty well. So that's one aspect where this really shines, and it isn't as wobbly or wallowy as some other SUVs may feel like. So it really drives with a lot of poise, and around the corners also it gives you a lot of confidence. The 195 section tires on the top end variants on alloys really give you a lot of confidence, and this car does feel like it's been built very well, meant to handle well. However, had it been more comfortable at lower speeds, that would have really added to the overall package. There is a dead pedal, so on long journeys you do get your comfort. The visibility all around is very good. It does feel like a very reassuring set of 4 wheels. It can be a ton of fun when you're driving on highways and at speed, and for its size and for what is expected to be its price, it is going to be very reassuring around a set of bends also, especially for being a compact SUV. However, my only gripe is that the engine should probably have been a little bit more refined, and the low speed ride quality, especially over bad surfaces, could probably have been a little bit better. Talking specifically about the performance here isn't a bright spot, although this car is very tractable, and in the real world it feels sufficient to handle most scenarios. But the 0 to 100 time here is slightly on the slower side, and it does its 0 to 100 in 16.5 seconds according to Tata Motors, and we tested it and we really think that the time is correct. It could have felt more sprightly, but to be very frank, for all practical purposes, I think this car has sufficient power and there is nothing that we should be complaining about. Now, Tata cars are known to be safe generally, and the Nexon as well as the Altroz are very safe cars, and you can expect the Punch also to be the safest cars in this segment, although the NCAP ratings are not out yet. But going by Tata's track record, we can safely assume that this car is going to be one of the safest in the segment. I also think that the insulation here could have been a little bit better, because the wind noise starts creeping in from 85 kilometers per hour onwards, and it gets very pronounced after 100 kilometers per hour. So there are a few areas where this car really shines, especially the fuel efficiency and its poise and the way it drives and handles. However, the comfort and the refinement could probably have been a little bit better. So guys, that was about the drive part of the car, and now let's come to the looks and the exterior features. And we are going to start with the dimensions. Now, the Magnite and the Renault Kiger have somewhat reduced the entry point for the sub 4 meter cars, sub 4 meter SUVs in India. And this car is going to further democratize the SUV segment, so to say, by giving an SUV-ish kind of a stance in a smaller frame, in a smaller body size, and at a lesser price, understandably. So if you look at the size of this car, it is smaller than the sub 4 meter SUVs like say the Magnite or the Kiger, and the dimensions here are even smaller. By how much? Well, the Magnite is 3994 mm in length, while this one here is 3827, which makes it 170 mm shorter in length as compared to the Magnite. But having said that, the Magnite is not the direct competition for this car, and cars like Tata's own Tiago NRG, which is more of a cross, and the Ignis, which isn't exactly an SUV but still has a raised stance, are the two direct rivals to this car. Now, if you compare it with those two cars, it's bigger in every which way you look at it. It's wider, it's taller, it's longer, it also has a longer wheelbase. In fact, if you compare it with even the Magnite, it's wider than the Magnite and taller than the Magnite. However, the wheelbase is shorter and the length is shorter. Let's talk about the looks of this car. Now, does it not clearly remind you of the Tata Harrier? Well, to me it does, and it should to you as well, which is not a bad thing at all, because the Tata Harrier is one of the better looking cars today in the Indian SUV segment, and these DRLs are clearly reminiscent of the Tata Harrier. The headlamp units are clearly reminiscent of the Tata Harrier, and from the front at least it looks like a mini-me version of the Harrier. So these DRLs are here. The blinkers are integrated in the DRL itself, just like the Tata Harrier. And then you have a projector set up for the headlamps. On the left hand side you have the high beam, and the projectors are for the low beam, and it's all wrapped in a smoky dark enclosure right here. The lower part of the bumper is also rather high, and as you can see, the clearance is quite good. In fact, Tata is highlighting the fact that it has very good approach, departure and breakover angles, and the less overhangs up front and at the rear underline the fact that this car can do some bit of soft roading as well. If you look at the top part of the grille, it's done in piano black, and you have this triple arrow design here which reveals the horn. The lower part of the bumper has this slit here with triple arrow design, and of course at the lower end also there is an array of triple arrows to highlight the new sign which is present on almost all the new Tata cars these days. There is also a generous splattering of chrome around the grille area, and it definitely lifts up the premium quotient of the car. There are no front sensors here. However, the fog lamps here are cornering, and once you turn the steering, the fog lamp on whichever side you are turning to lights up. Headlamps are automatic. The wipers are also rain sensing. So these are two really good features that Tata is offering with the Punch. However, the features vary with the variants, and I'll get to that while we are getting into the car. But for now, let's have a look at the design. Now, coming towards the side, as you can see, there is cladding all around the car, and it's been extended onto the doors as well to give it that outdoorsy, soft roading capable kind of a look. Now, the wheels here, as you can see, are diamond cut 16-inch alloys for the top variant, and for the lower variants you will get a smaller size 195 section tires for the top end variant. Lower variants will get 185 section, and there is no dearth of grip from these tires. The arches are square, but as you can see, there is quite a lot of difference between the wheel and the arches. So I think the arches could probably have been filled a little better. There's quite a bit of a hole here. The front wheels have discs, the rear have drums, and as you can see here, there's a two-tone treatment given to the car's exterior. The top part of the roof is done in a black, so only for the top of the line variants you'll have the option of getting a two-tone body color with the roof in a contrasting color. You don't have a shark fin antenna here, although you do have these roof rails. You get this antenna, and if you look at the roof, it doesn't swoop down to enhance the headroom. It's quite a tall car, so there is generous headroom available inside. The door handles also have this little dimple on the side which adds to the look of the car. The ORVMs get LED blinkers, and the design is rather simplistic, and I like it that way. I really think that Tata have done a good job with the design of this car. This is an SUV, a very small sized SUV, and sometimes when you do that, it does look a little disproportionate, but with the Punch, Tata have done a decent job. Now the handles for the rear door are located here, like we have seen on the Swift and earlier the Beat. And another special thing about these doors is that they open fully to a 90-degree angle, which allows for very easy ingress and egress. So that's another highlight of the Punch, and despite being small in size, it will not hamper your entry or exit from the car. Here you have the fuel filler, and the fuel tank capacity here is 37 liters. Coming towards the side, the tail lamps extend quite some way into the sides, and at the rear, especially if you look at it from the side, from this angle, it would remind you of the Tata Nexon. So while from the front it looks like the Tata Harrier, at the rear it gives you somewhat a glimpse of the Tata Nexon. You have a high mount stop lamp, rear wash and wipe, which again I think is a bit of a matter that needs to be addressed. It's available only on the top of the line variant, which is a bit of a bummer, because otherwise the one step lower variant would have been the most value for money. You have a rear view camera here, the Tata logo, the Punch logo here. Now the lower part of the bumper, like the front, is quite high up, and again there is very little overhang here, which allows for the very high departure angle of this car. You have rear parking sensors as well, and there is this ridge which is sort of a design in the rear bumper. You also have these reflectors right here. The tail lamps are LED units, and the blinkers and reverse light are bulbs. A little Easter egg is this silhouette of a rhino which has been provided on the rear windscreen, which brings us to the boot space, and the button to release the boot is right here. You have about 366 liters of maximum usable boot space here. It does not honestly look like 366 degree, but the term that Tata have used is the maximum available, and I really believe that they have used some technicality there. However, this boot seems to be sufficient for a family of 4 to go for a short weekend, and for this segment, this boot doesn't leave anything to complain about. In addition to that, you can also tumble the seats down like so. However, there is no split seat functionality available here, and I really believe that knowing that this is a small SUV, having split seats would have really added to the loading capacity of this car. There are 2 hooks on either side as well, and both of these can bear a weight of 1 kg. The spare wheel here is not a full-sized unit. It's a 185 section steel wheel, and it's not an alloy. You also have this Velcro belt to keep this puncture repair kit, which comes as a unique feature with the car, in place. So this puncture repair kit comes standard with the car, which Tata is highlighting as a USP of this machine. Now before we get in, let me just let you know which all colors are available with the car. So you get the car in Orcus White, Daytona Grey, Tropical Mist, Atomic Orange, Meteor Bronze, Tornado Blue and Calypso Red colors. And about the variants, the car is available in 4 variants which have been given a new nomenclature. So you have Pure, Adventure, Accomplished and Creative. Creative is the top of the line, and you can see all the features in all the variants on the screen right now. Let me just let you know the important features in each variant. So in the Pure variant, you get dual airbags, ISOFIX child seats, tilt steering, LED indicators and central locking with key. On the Adventure variant, you get a 4-inch infotainment, 4 speakers, USB charging point, steering mounted controls, electrically adjustable ORVMs, power windows, both front and rear, day-night IRVM, wheel covers and body colored ORVMs. On the Accomplished variant, you get a 7-inch touchscreen, 2 additional tweeters, rear view camera, LED tail lamps, front fog lamps, 15-inch hyper style wheels, push button start stop, 1 touch down driver window, cruise control, traction for AMT and driver seat height adjustment. Now for the Creative variant, you get projector headlights, 16-inch diamond cut alloys, 7-inch TFT instrument console, rain sensing wipers, auto folding ORVMs, auto headlamps, automatic climate control, cooled glove box, rear wash and wipe, which I think should have been given in the Accomplished variant, but here Tata is trying to upsell, puddle lamps, rear seat armrest and leather steering and gear knob. Now one important thing, You can also add features to each base variant, and you have packs which you can add to the variant. So the features that you can add to various variants in Rhythm, Dazzle or IRA packs is provided on the screen, and you can add these features to a lower variant to make it more feature rich. And in that sense, we really think that the accomplished variant suits the most of the requirements and has the most number of features for a lesser price. Now let's have a look at the key. It's the familiar Tata key with lock, unlock, follow me home light and remote boot release. And you don't really have to take the key out of the pocket as it has a proximity sensor. So just press this button and you can enter very easily with these 90-degree opening doors. Now this door panel here has a variety of textures. You have black, you have a different texture, dark grey here, and what Tata calls a glacier grey, which is a shade of ivory or white. You have some space to put your wallet or whatever you have. Electric adjustable mirrors which are auto folding for the top variant. Driver side window which is auto down but not auto up, and space for 2 water bottles along with some space for an umbrella. The triple arrow design on the speaker area also looks pretty good, although there are no soft to touch areas around the touch points, and I would have really liked to have a fabric insert where I could feel some soft materials on my arms and elbows. The entry is not too difficult, 190 mm of ground clearance. It's slightly higher than normal, but even for the shorter ones amongst you, it won't be a problem. So the seating position is pretty good. You have a driver seat height adjust, and here you have some space to store your wallet or your cell phone, and you have the button for the fog lamp to choose from eco or city modes, and you also have auto start stop for saving fuel while being on a traffic signal. You also get a push button start, and the AC vents are also pretty sturdily built, and they are surrounded by a satin silver insert. The fuel cap release lever is here, and the bonnet release is here, although you don't have a boot release button here because it's electrically connected with the door unlock. So once the doors are unlocked, you can open the boot as well. Now the seats here are well bolstered, although these are not the widest or the plushest seats that I've seen. This being a compact, rather ultra compact SUV, it's okay. I guess there's nothing to complain, but these seats probably could have been wider to accommodate bigger people as well, and the thigh support also could have been slightly better, although there is nothing to complain about. The cushioning and everything is very good, just that we have seen slightly better seats on some other cars. You have this 7-inch touchscreen with Harman audio, and the quality of audio as always is very good for the class. You also have a 7-inch infotainment screen with an analog tacho here, and all the features which we have seen on some other Tata cars are available here as well. Now since this is the top of the line variant, you have a leather wrapped D-cut steering wheel. The steering wheel is not adjustable for reach, it's adjustable only for rake, so it's only tilt adjustable. The gear knob also, just like the steering wheel, is leather wrapped, and you have plenty of space here. As you can see, this crevice here is very useful, and you can put your cell phone, wallet, and there is ample space here to put a lot of stuff, so that way this is a very nicely thought out space. The infotainment system here is also pretty feature rich. It comes with a rear view camera with guide lines. I would have liked it to have some views as well, although that's not available here. The sound quality from the 6-speaker system is pretty good. It's par for the course. There's absolutely nothing to complain about there. And in addition to all of that, you get a lot of features. There are voice commands in Hindi as well. For example, मुझे ठंडी लग रही है. So you can give it commands in Hindi as well as English. It comes with park assist, which can be turned on or off, and apart from that, it comes with Bluetooth connectivity. But most of all, it gets a navigation system with What 3 words, wherein the entire world has been divided into areas of 3 square meter by What 3 words, and everything has been given a unique address which can be precisely reached by using these 3 words. And you can find these 3 words using the What 3 words application, where if you choose any area on the map, it gives you the unique 3 words for that location, and then you can use those 3 words to navigate. So that's a unique feature. Apart from that, this infotainment system also comes with the IRA functionality, which is a connected car feature. Now you need to remember that even the Creative variant will have the IRA features as an add-on and not as a standard fitment, so you'll have to pay extra as a pack. Now using the infotainment system, you can remote lock unlock the car, you can remotely turn the lights on and off, you can use the horn remotely. It gives you live vehicle diagnostics, geofencing, time fencing, valet mode, what 3 words, roadside assistance, intrusion alert, remote immobilization, emergency SMS. All of these features are available as a part of the infotainment system. The infotainment system can also play back video and view images through USB. Also, of course, this is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compliant, but not wirelessly, so you'll have to connect a wire. Now, about the dashboard, there are no soft to touch materials here, although these are hard wearing plastics, so they are going to last a very long time. But there are no soft to touch materials here, and also what Tata calls as the dark granite kind of a dashboard finish is something which looks nice from a distance, but when you touch it you realize that it's going to catch dust quite soon. Ditto for this glacier grey insert as well, where the surface isn't smooth enough, and I really believe that in the long term this is going to catch dust and will be a little bit of a pain to clean. The AC works fantastically well and cools really fast. And apart from that, you have some space here where you can put your wallet. You have 2 bottle holders. In terms of charging options, you have a USB socket here, which is also used for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have this charging socket here, which can be converted into a USB using an adapter, and you also have this socket here, which can be used by the passenger or by the rear passengers, because there is no dedicated USB socket for the rear, so this can probably be used by the rear passengers as well. Here you have a light, and there is a toll ticket holder, which is not of much use these days, but there is a vanity mirror right here. The IRVM is manual, day and night, no auto dimming feature here, but for this segment we don't expect that. And then comes the glove box, which has this tray right here, which can be used to store maybe your laptop or your cell phone. So you have a multi-layer glove box, which is quite useful. It is illuminated as well as cooled, so you can put your drinks inside and they'll stay cool. Now in terms of what's missing, this car should have come with wireless charging. It's not all that expensive a feature to provide, and I really think that Tata should have provided a wireless charger in this bay, and it would have really added tremendously to charge most of the modern phones which charge wirelessly. And apart from that, I don't see there is anything missing per se for this segment. It's well loaded, and the interior is well done. It looks nice, although the quality of the plastics could probably have been better. They are all hard plastics, and the finish also isn't the best. I'm not saying it's bad, but it probably could have been a little bit better. You get automatic climate control, which is great, and the fabric for the seats in black and grey with triple arrow design and this contrasting stitching also looks rather nice. I really don't have any complaints here. All I thought was missing was a few soft to touch materials here and there, and maybe a little bit more finesse. I really think that the material used here could probably have been a little bit better. Now, since this is a small SUV, a lot of you would be thinking that there is not enough space at the rear, but such is not the case. Let's go at the back seat and see how much space do we have there. Now the materials at the rear are also quite like what you have up front, and you have 3 different materials. You have this dark black, this greyish black, and you have this glacier grey here. Some space for a wallet, which is also like a door pull, and you have space for 2 water bottles, one of which can easily be a 1 liter water bottle as well. And just like the front, getting into the back seat also is not too difficult. There is ample knee room here, there is ample leg room, so in that sense Tata have done a fantastic job, and you will not find any dearth of space here. The headroom also is pretty generous, knowing that this is a tall car, so even if you are 6 feet 1 or 6 feet 2, you should be able to manage. It's not going to be a problem. However, I believe that the backrest here is a little too straight for my liking. There should have been a little bit more inclined angle to it, but I also believe that why Tata have done that is to increase the thigh support, which is decent for the class. In fact, it's pretty good. As you can see, the thigh support is very good. So if you increase the incline angle, the thigh support is reduced. So The thigh support is fantastic, but the incline angle should have been slightly more slanted to my liking. You have Isofix child seat mounts. The seat fabric is similar to what you have up front, and you also have an armrest. Adjustable headrests are present, which is fantastic. Although you don't have a light for the rear passengers, I really think that there should have been a provision for that. No rear AC vents or charging sockets, but you can use the socket up front for charging your phones at the rear, and just in case you don't want to hold it, there is this crevice here for you to put your cell phone as well. The floor is pretty flat, so it is technically possible to seat 3 abreast. Although the space here for your foot is going to be a bit of an issue, but you can technically seat 3 here because this is a reasonably wide car for its size and for its segment. It has a decent amount of width, so 3 people, even though with their brushing shoulders, can technically sit here. It's not recommended, but for short journeys it's quite possible. The seats are quite comfortable, and my only gripe is that the backrest angle could probably have been slightly more slanted. Also, at slow speeds, as I mentioned during the drive part, the suspension isn't the cushiest, and there is an inherent firmness to the suspension. So at slow speeds, the rear passengers may feel slightly uncomfortable, but as the speed picks up, the car also becomes more comfortable and more compliant. You also have these pockets behind the front seat, and the seat belt for the third passenger is obviously a lap belt. All in all, for its size and class, I really believe that Tata have done a fantastic job, and I generally don't have anything to complain about here. Now for this segment, while there are no other cars with a diesel option available, I would have really wanted Tata to provide a diesel option for the Punch, because it's supposed to be a mini SUV, and the kind of people who want to buy this car would probably have appreciated a diesel engine on this. But since there is no other car available with that option, I'm not complaining. And going by that logic, I really believe that the pricing of this car should range for all the variants between 5.3 to about 7.5-8 lakh rupees. And at that price, this product is going to be quite competitive. The Energy, which is again a similar product although slightly smaller, is priced slightly on the higher side and starts at 6.5 lakh rupees. So if this product is priced at 5.5 lakh rupees for the starting variant, for the base variant, I really believe that this is going to be a great value for money proposition. Although for those who want a slightly bigger car, also have the option of the Magnite, which I really believe has been priced fantastically. And the price range for the 1 litre NA engine of that car is 5.7 lakh rupees to 8 lakh rupees. And for those of you who want a slightly bigger car, probably looking at that option will not hurt that much. But all in all, a great effort by Tata. And in terms of what they set out to do, I think they have done a fantastic job. Overall, it's a great package. The only few things that I didn't like is a little bit more refinement on the engine would have been better, and the suspension could probably have been a little bit more comfortable. I really hope that with this video I was able to answer all the questions that you had about this beautiful new product from Tata. And if you like this video, if you like our long format content, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids, press that bell icon, press that always option in the bell icon, and always use Motoroids in your searches if you're looking for holistic content. Until next time then, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.